I've spent the past 5 years of my life as a banker. And throughout my time, I have seen a tremendous amount of diversity when it comes to people's personal finances. So I took it upon myself to be able to master my own personal finances and see what it is that works and some of the things that do not work. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss the 7 most common poor money habits, as well as how we can actually easily make some adjustments on these habits and be able to start generating real wealth and ultimately getting that freedom that we all desire. Now, the first most common poor money habit that I see is people not having a strong financial goal. I see a lot of people saying that they want to do like home repair at the end of the year or a hope that they can achieve, but not something that they have truly sat down and planned on actually hitting. Now, a way that I think you can easily adjust is to actually tie it to something that is emotional based, something that resonates with a passion of yours. A great example would be, I see a lot of people that say that they're planning on saving for their kids' college fund. The problem is that typically you're giving someone about 15 years to be able to hit that goal. A lot is going to happen in 15 years that is going to deter you, slow you down, or overall not have you save whatsoever. But if you change it to where I want to have my kids go to a college and get an education that I was never able to have, and open them up opportunities to be able to pursue their passions. And that's what I'm saving for. That's so much stronger of a goal that you are wanting to hit, to where when those things start trying to deviate you off your path, you have a strong light at the end of the tunnel that allows you to continue to keep taking one step in front of the other in terms of hitting that financial goal. The next most common poor money habit that I see is paying yourself last. Now, we get into this bad habit of as soon as we get paid, we cover expenses, and then we try to use what leftover money that we have to be able to go have some fun experiences, and then we kind of get stuck in that loop again. What I would say is that you need to at least be saving 10% of everything that you bring in on each paycheck and having it go straight into an emergency fund account or a savings account. This is really going to be able to help you start planning for things that are going to happen in the future. What I would suggest doing is with your account that you have, there's probably going to be some sort of feature called like autosave, to where as soon as a direct deposit comes in, it automatically just routes in 10 to 25% of your funds into a savings account. And this will really be able to allow you to not look at what's happening and help you with that financial goal that you're truly wanting to achieve. The third one that I'm surprised that a lot of people don't talk about actually is falling for supermarket traps. Now, when I was in high school, I actually worked for the local grocery store, and I learned a lot of the tricks that the supermarket actually does. What grocery stores are designed is in similarity to a casino. You walk in, you're not going to see clocks. It's going to be kind of dark, and it's going to go through like a maze setting because they're hoping for you to be putting more goods into the basket as you're getting to your final destination. So a couple things that I have done to be able to mitigate some of the risk of going through the grocery store and buying things that I don't need is I do what's called shopping the outer ring. I go into one of the side doors and I shop all the way on the outside, and then I go through and I hit a couple of the aisles that I need stuff from. What you get on the outer ring is you get the core necessities. You get the produce, you get the protein, you get the dairy, and then you get the eggs towards the end. That allows me to be able to fill my basket with the things that I need first. And then also with the aisles is typically the most common goods are going to be towards the outside. So if you need tortillas, you need bread, you need sauces, typically you're going to see that right on the end. The further you go into the aisle, the higher likelihood that you're going to be grabbing those more high-priced items. Another trick that I use is I actually try to go for the smaller shopping cart. Shopping carts are literally designed to be wider and deeper so that you are spatially looking at it, wanting to fill it up to feel like you have a full shopping basket. It's a lot easier to fill up a smaller basket with the things that you actually need. And then I try to go to one of the checkouts that have 25 items or less, because that way I know I will be trying to get under $100 for high protein, healthy food throughout the week. The fourth most common poor money habit that I see that actually is shocking to me is a lot of people don't know their income. So not knowing your income is going to correlate to you not knowing what your expenses are. So what I would suggest saying is a lot of bank accounts can show you what your income to spend ratio is. Or if you don't have that, you want to have a third party provider, do something like Mint and put in your account information, and you'll be shocked to see most likely how close your spending is to your income. Something that helps me think about this is I work very hard and I put a lot of effort into the work that I do. And I don't want that to just end up being spent for things that I don't also work hard on knowing where my money's going. I don't want to just do 50% of the work in acquiring wealth. The fifth most common poor money habit is having expensive hobbies. A great example is I was really into bowling for a while. And I know that it sounds like kind of a niche, kind of just fun little thing that you do with your friends and family. Bowling is actually an extremely expensive hobby, because if you want to get good at bowling and you don't want to break your fingers, which I literally almost did, you can even see that my middle finger is like crooked from bowling with the house ball. So their house ball is made from a different material, and so to actually be able to do good at bowling, you have to buy your own ball, and that's going to cost you around $300. You're also going to need to get your own shoes. You also are going to want to have a bag to be able to carry this, as well as money to be able to afford a lane for every time you want to practice. And typically to practice, you have to do multiple games. So anyway, the point is that when I actually dove deep into why I was bowling to begin with, while I do like the sport, it was actually because I was finding myself to be very complacent professionally and overall throughout my life. I wasn't going out and trying to achieve more. So when I started trying and actively pursuing resistance, I started overcoming that and felt that kind of competitive urge that I needed. And I no longer wanted to go bowling. And the point of the story is that you might be doing a hobby and spending a lot of money towards it that isn't actually scratching the itch of what you are truly wanting to do. Now, this is a huge one coming in at number 6, and that is choosing quantity over quality. A great example is if you were going to go buy a pair of jeans. I typically buy cheaper jeans because I don't wear them that frequently and they typically never fit me well anyway. But the amount of times that I have bought these cheaper jeans, worn them once or twice, and had to get new ones far surpasses the price on if I would have actually just spent the money on a higher quality pair of jeans. And I think this really resonates with a lot of different things. And the way that I have now changed just in my clothes shopping is that I try to buy things that hit a multitude of different things that I would be doing. So the main things would be, I want to be able to work out in it. I want to be able to casually go out and experience things in the attire, as well as I want to be able to go on a date in it. When you really are able to break it down into these 3 different kind of categories, or whatever it is that you are doing in your life, you can start finding things that really meet the needs of multiple different things, and it just instinctively you have to start buying less. So I think that's a really great tip if you find yourself with a lot of clutter around your place and spending more money than you may need to be. Now, coming in at the last one, the one that I think is of the top most important ones is not investing in yourself. I see a lot of people spending such a tremendous amount of time and typically lower amounts of money on getting a higher return on their funds. And while I don't think that this is necessarily the wrong approach, the problem that I have is that a lot of people are just not making enough income for it to be worthwhile. And the other thing is that people aren't pursuing their passions to begin with, typically. What I am a proponent of is, unless you're making an absorbent amount of money, or you have your saving plan so dialed in to where you have just a lot of extra cash, then I would say invest in yourself. And it can be as easy as spending some time out in nature, walking around, having free thought, to buying books on something that you're passionate about, to giving yourself a little bit of money if you need some products or you need some devices to be able to help you pursue that passion. I have now saved up 12 months worth of expenses in liquid cash to be able to allow me to pursue my passion. So I will actually soon be quitting my full-time job that I've done for the past 5 years. I got this job right out of high school. I really know nothing else in the world. And while it does feel scary, I have followed these habits and allowed myself to give me a shot. And instead of putting more money into the market, I've decided that it's time for me to invest in myself. I would say, look at things that you are passionate about, give yourself a shot. You are worth it. People seem very scared to ask questions about finances. I would love for you to ask any question that you have in the comments down below. Please, I would love to help. I don't feel like I can truly help in the setting that I am in professionally. I would love to be able to assist in any way that I can. And I really just want to thank you so much for all of the love that you guys have given me. I really appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.